Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Star Wars Rebels episode review. This one's going to be for Season 2, Episode 10, A Princess on Lothal. And yeah, we're back from the Christmas break with Rebels and into the second half of the season. Obviously I've already put out my analysis of the trailer for the second half of the season, but now we're finally back into the episodes. And uh, obviously it wasn't really a surprise. Like they basically advertised this episode as like we're returning to Rebels and Leia's gonna be in it, so it wasn't much of a surprise. But I actually really enjoyed the episode. I don't think it was like brilliant or anything like that, but it was just a fun episode. Like for I think it didn't suffer the same problems as say the Lando episode, where like okay, it's cool we get an original trilogy character introduced at an earlier point in their life, but in that episode, it was just like, oh, there's not much to that episode. It's just like they didn't really do a whole lot with Lando or like Hondo even. Like it was just like there's a tiny like hint as to like what the rebel involvement is, the plot. But with this Leia episode, there was actually a relevance for her to be in the episode and a decently sized importance to the like rebellion growing bigger, in the sense of like she was covertly trying to give these three ships to the rebellion without the Empire knowing that Alderaan are giving the ships to the rebellion, because they're kind of trying to stay undercover. So, I like that. Like, there's been a lot of episodes this season that have been like that, where it's just been kind of like, okay, here's a character focused thing, and we're gonna try and tie it into the plot by having like a piece of important information. Get some supplies to this planet, or the episode with the A wing, or something like that. But this one actually felt relatively important, and absolutely Leia being in the episode was the star of the episode, and I thought it was really interesting to see her here, and that like she's the same age as Ezra here. We know that because Ezra's the same age as Luke as well. Um, in that they're effectively all born on like the same day, kind of. Um, what I really liked was that her design, like a lot of the other familiar Rebels designs haven't been like that great. Like Hondo, I didn't think looked very good. From the trailer, Yoda doesn't look that good. Anakin looks okay, but not perfect. But Leia actually looks spot on. Like it actually really looks like her from A New Hope, but you can tell it's just a little bit younger because like we're like 5 years I think away from A New Hope kind of time period, or even less than that. So that her aging from where she is in this episode to then, she's not going to change that much, but it's clear that there's a slight difference. And I really like the way they did her design here. Um, the voice was always going to be tricky because you can't really have Carrie Fisher doing uh, a Leia that's that young. And then there's also the trickiness of just the fact that in the originals, Carrie the voice for Leia, the Carrie Fisher, at times, especially in like A New Hope, she tries to be like heavily British, but then there are other times when she just kind of talks normally, and like it's kind of hard to say like, do you try to go for a slightly British thing or not? And I think the voice actors here did a good job at just kind of trying to get some sort of a kind of a consistent kind of this is the Leia voice. But yeah, she was really fun in the episode as well because she was there for like serious reasons, of course. And they definitely play up the whole idea of the similarities between her and Ezra in the sense of like they're the same age. They are both young people that have a lot of responsibilities on them, in that Leia really wants to help the rebellion and so is putting a lot of pressure on herself, whereas Ezra, in terms of like his force abilities and becoming a Jedi and stuff like that, is also putting pressure on himself to um, be strong and stuff like that. So that was a nice kind of similarity to bring up, and they have a few little moments together between the two where they highlight their friendship. She can very much sense that he's just been through a lot. She gets the sense of what happened. Kanan doesn't explain exactly what happened, but definitely when she then comes in, she realizes what's happened. He's finally realized his parents are gone. But I like the connection that she also heard his kind of call for rebellion from the end of season one and stuff like that. So that was a very nicely done moment to just kind of bring them together. That she she sees something in him and thinks he can be like really good, and especially once I suppose she discovers he has force powers, there's another sense of like, oh, that's interesting. They didn't draw a massive amount of attention to like Leia's reaction to the fact that there are two Jedi here. It was just like, oh, that's cool, that's good. I'm impressed, kind of thing. There was not like a big like, this is the first time I'm ever seeing Force users or anything like that, because I suppose in A New Hope, Leia knows about Obi-Wan and knows who he is. Bail Organa has obviously told her about him. Um, so there's a sense of like she must know that the Jedi aren't very prevalent, so it's a kind of shock to see some of them. But on her side, it's a good thing. But in general, like her general attitude throughout the episode was quite good. She obviously was very commanding. She very much knows her position. That with the Imperial officer she had there, she was in control. Like if she got hurt on this planet, the Empire would suffer kind of more than anyone else. So she was aware of the kind of commanding influence she had over a lot of the situations. Her plans didn't perfectly work out, but they were kind of, for the most part, well thought out. It was just a sense of like the Empire were finally beginning to catch on to the fact that Alderaan, a mysterious number of Alderaan ships were like going missing and then ending up in the hands of rebels, and so that kind of messed up her own plan, and then she was forced to help everyone else. But I liked how the suspicion was never on her for that long. There's just that kind of one scene where the lieutenant just tells her like his suspicions, and then after that, they do a good enough job at basically keeping Ezra and Kanan under cover, and then keeping always realizing that this in whatever situation they're doing, that Leia is meant to be on the Imperial side in this situation. So when they're running to the ship, it has to be as a captive and that sort of thing. She has to fight them when they go off and stuff like that. And especially the final moment when she says goodbye to Ezra, it's just like, come on, you got to do it. I'll give you permission just this one time to hit her with the stun blaster to kind of keep her on the planet and just make her completely innocent. That like she got shot basically and trying to keep the ships there. So in no way Alderaan was involved in this. Just the rebels came and stole these ships effectively. It was a really nicely done kind of comedic kind of plot throughout the whole episode. Ezra and Kanan staying undercover, and then her kind of playing both sides. That she is a rebel, but everyone knows her as kind of at the princess of a member of the Imperial Senate type thing. So, she was very much using her power. That the little joke about the whole idea of just like if you're locking down my ships, I want your ship, Lieutenant. And then the joke at the end about how like, oh, you've lost your ship too, have you? And she was just very kind of strong and confident in what she was saying. It was it definitely was the Leia character we know from episode 4, 5, 6. You know, she's never one to hold back with some of her comments and stuff like that. Like even when she's being rescued in episode 4, you know, she's still making the snappy comments to Han and Luke and stuff like that. So that definitely came across here. You had the one I suppose emotional line from her, and that like Ezra asks her like, why do you fight? You're a princess. You have no reason to fight. But she says that because I'm able to fight. I feel I have to help the people who can't. So it was just showing that she does really care about others and is very much supporting the rebel cause. The other part of the episode was that I did like the inclusion of Ryder Azani back into things, the governor of Lothal. I liked that there was a small arc in the episode just about the fact that at the start they're going to escort him to safety, but he wants no real involvement in the rebellion. But gradually, as he sees this plan trying to go off, he realizes that I have information that could help things. I know how to put the gravity kind of locks together. I can get rid of them. And it ends up he really helps in the escape, and that he pilots one of the ships off planet and stuff like that. And so he's in the rebellion going forward. Is he going to be a recurring character? Perhaps, we see him every so often. I think for the most part his key role in the series is probably done. but I just like that they're gradually gathering all these various characters together as that they're becoming part of the rebellion. Um, so I like that. I actually thought kind of midway through the episode that the way they were setting him up was that he was going to stay away from the rebellion and then potentially make a big sacrifice and get killed, because he was put in a lot of danger in this episode. Like there were stormtroopers coming right at him, no cover, and he's just messing with the machine to kind of break open the lock. I really thought he was going to go down at some point, but they kept him alive, and I think that was overall good. This wasn't really the episode where you needed to have a really dramatic death or anything like that, so that worked out well. And then the action itself in the episode was actually really well done. They just set up a little kind of battle scenario in that, okay, there's a bunch of stormtroopers around, and there's two AT-ATs covering the ships, and the rebel is basically Kanan, Ezra, the other rebels, versus this whole situation. And, Kanan had a really strong moment where he just, like, cut the legs of two AT-ATs in half, the two of the AT-AT legs in half to kind of knock it over. It was a scene where I was just like, that's a really cool scene, but then I actually also had the moment where I'm just like, that makes Luke in episode 5 just look terrible, that he had to do so much to take down an AT-AT when he had his lightsaber on him and could have just slashed through one of the legs. I suppose at that point in time, Luke doesn't know how to force jump and jump up that high to the point where he could slice through the leg and isn't skilled enough to do that, but it's still like, wow, the amount of damage, an actual Jedi could do to an AT-AT, like, you can sort of see why like the droids manufacturers never made any machine like that. That it was the clone army that had the walkers on their side. So just a fun little thing, just seeing the Ghost take out an AT-AT and then Kanan take out another one. It was a really good battle scene. You see Leia take out a couple of stormtroopers as well. You get to see the two of them demonstrate their force abilities in front of Leia. But, overall you come out of the episode, it's like fun, not the most important episode in the sense of like them meeting Leia didn't really change all that much, in that Leia perhaps gave Ezra like renewed hope, like snapped him a little bit out of kind of just constantly thinking about his parents at all times and like focusing more on helping others. But it wasn't the biggest impact for a new character, and like, will we see her again in the series? I'd assume again once or twice. They might do something fairly important about Alderaan, Bail Organa at the end of a season coming up, but there's definitely some things that like Leia obviously doesn't mention these characters because it didn't exist at the time in the originals. So does something happen to them between then and there, or is this just setting up the fact that the Rebel Alliance is so all about the Force because they have over time had Jedi who escaped Order 66 on their side? Not really sure, but fun episode, but not the best. Anything else to really talk about? Yeah, not really. Like, I really liked the introduction of Leia. I liked the voice acting, how they used her. It really fit the character and felt like a really good, like, oh, I'm happy that this episode is canon, that this is kind of part of Leia's history before A New Hope. So that worked well. And then, the Rebels now have 3 ships to add to their fleet. That's good. I don't know how important that will be, but, they're gradually getting bigger. But it was still more or less a standalone episode. I think the main plot of season 2, for sure, is stuff revolving around Ahsoka, the Inquisitors going after Kanan and Ezra, and then the big one, obviously, Ahsoka gradually coming to realize that Darth Vader is Anakin. I think that's the big plot that is going to be the episodes where we really get into, like, this is the plot of this season. But right now it's just this kind of more really broad kind of plot of just like the rebellion is getting bigger. They're gradually gaining a fleet and stuff like that, becoming more powerful to where they can properly combat the Empire, as we see in A New Hope. So they're doing a good job of gradually setting it up, but it's not. It means that there's just ends up being a lot of episodes throughout these seasons that aren't the most amazing episodes. But yeah, that's been the review. Thanks for watching, and bye.